Welcome to Taranaki Properties, the show where we take a breathtaking tour of both modern and historical properties around the Taranaki province. On this week's show, I take a look at a show home that is very much the modern style of home, and we talk about how you might decide what kind of property you want to build. Then, a trip down State Highway 3 to Stratford, where we visit the Pioneer Village, a village that is rich in historical properties. Right now though, I'm off to the mountain to visit the Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge. Thomas Dawson rediscovered the Dawson Falls on Mount Taranaki back in 1883. He arrived in Manaia in 1881 as their first postmaster and had a passion for climbing and tramping. He spent weekends and holidays exploring the mountain, and in 1883 he discovered the falls, hence the name, Dawson Falls. In 1888, Thomas Dawson's superiors transferred him to Wanganui, as his love of the mountain was interfering with his work. Ironically, 3 months after the transfer, he died in a boating accident on the Wanganui River. By the mid-1890s, a mountain house had been opened 902 metres above sea level in the Egmont National Park. This was an area of respite for climbers and trampers, and in 1896, a hostel and caretakers building was also opened. Hospitality played a large role even then, for as far back as 1906 there was a ball in the hostel hosting up to 120 guests. In 1931, the mountain house was moved to where the dock centre now is, and it was renamed the Robson Lodge. And what was once the hostel and the caretakers lodge became the Dawson Falls Tourist Lodge. These days it is known as the Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge and is managed by Pam and Basil Dowman. And you guys have put a lot of work in here, haven't you, to bring this up to where it is now?
Yes. I've actually been here 9 years, and we've just been the managers for 3 years, and
Right.
trying to get it right up to good home cooking.
Whilst visiting the Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge, you cannot help but be relaxed by the tranquil ambience of the complex.
The place itself's got a sort of a nice, comfortable, easy feel.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be, it's a place where you can come here and just relax. And that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
In 1973, Keith Anderson took over the Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge. At that stage, it was still very much in its original corrugated iron form with very basic rooms. To meet current health and fire regulations, he had to give the building a complete overhaul or he would have been closed down. Every room needed work done on it. Keith studied Swiss and Austrian architecture and decided to go with the Swiss style for the interior. Ornately carved woodwork, plasterwork and great treatment of detail, including handmade wooden hinges. Due to a very tight budget, Keith had to be creative and use his initiative when it came to materials, resulting in stunning furniture carved out of logs. Keith Anderson was a true artist. The folk art throughout the entire lodge is simply breathtaking. You can imagine the hours spent on such detail. Some of his paintings are on display throughout the lodge. You've obviously got pride of place of that Keith's painting.
Yeah, that's one of Keith's paintings, a good one. It actually shows the mountain from this side, from this lodge area.
Right.
It's an early sunrise.
So there's your shark's tooth and everything up there that's quite prominent on it.
It is. It's one of the good ones.
Amazing. Some of this, there are some absolutely stunning paintings around that Keith's done over of the mountain, and they'll live on forever and ever, won't they?
They will.
Friends, family and lodge patrons spent many hundreds of hours working on the lodge, either with a creative input or just grueling hands-on labour. Keith spent 10 years working on the renovations. By the end of that, he'd needed a well-earned break from his exhausting work. Keith and his wife, Berta, heartbreakingly sold the lodge to its new owners, allowing them to finish the work.
The new owners coming in, the Lilfords, Tom and Nell, they extended the front lounge and the breakfast area and finished off room 9, am I correct?
Yes, they finished up room 9.
And I think they finished 11 and 12, didn't they?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Throughout the lodge there is many different vistas. On a clear day you can not only see Mount Taranaki but also Mount Ruapehu, Ngārahoe and Tongariro. Pam and Basil have done a wonderful job in maintaining and managing the Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge, making sure it remains one of the jewels in Taranaki's crown. The Dawson Falls Mountain Lodge is very much a Keith Anderson creation. Keith and his wife Berta, unable to stay away from the mountain, later took over the running of another lodge. Unfortunately, Keith lost his life in February 2003. While travelling home on Pembroke Road, he was involved in a fatal car crash. A car was travelling on the wrong side of the road and resulted in a head-on collision. Keith's wife, Berta, together with Joan Braddock, have written a biography on Keith Anderson's life, celebrating the life and art of a mountain man. This week, I decided to take a step back to see how some people might decide what kind of property they want to build. So, I thought it was time to visit a show home and speak to a builder. This property is on Hedder Road in New Plymouth, and it was designed and built by Lyle Dix of Abode Design and Build. Show homes are a very useful tool for people when it comes to making decisions on the design, size and the colours they want in their own homes.
The reality, you can go into a room, you can see just how big that bedroom is, or that kitchen is, or the bathroom is. So many people just don't have an understanding of how big a 3.5 metre room is. So having a home like this available for people to go through is hugely important.
A lot of people probably don't have a real good idea what they want anyway. So by you guys putting it in, you can't help, when you walk inside this place, you cannot help but be impressed by your colour selections.
Yeah, once again, it is showing people just what we can do in the marketplace. If you see a roll of wallpaper in a wallpaper shop, you probably wouldn't pick it for your home. You put it on a wall and people think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Let's talk about this particular home. You've actually gone for what is a very, very, very old design. It was in the 1950s when they had the V-shaped roof, and it went out of vogue, I suppose, or out of fashion. They went more to the pitch, and then they went to the dormers, and they went to the Dutch gables and all that. You've gone back to this V-shape.
Yeah, once again, the building industry is evolving. It changes on a yearly basis, I suppose. And a lot of that's depicted by the products that are on the market. Yeah. What we've used on this house is a Titan board and a linear board, and they're really designed around this type of home. Yeah. High walls, tall narrow windows, they're vertical and horizontal lines, and the whole house has been designed around that.
The effective use of the high ceiling just gives you so much space in this particular place.
Yeah, it certainly opens the room up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You would think of it, talking of charcoals and greys and so forth, which you've actually decorated throughout, you would think it would give it a sort of a closed-in feeling, but it certainly doesn't give that way here. The charcoals are absolutely amazing, very smart.
Yeah, it actually opens the home up, I think, and like with the kitchen, with the Corian top and that on the kitchen, it just opens the whole room up for that entertainers type home.
The design of this property goes past being functional, it is ideal. The large open plan living area greets you at the front door, and a smaller lounge area is tucked in behind the kitchen, providing a separate nook for either an office or a more private lounge. The 4 bedrooms are nestled away quietly down the hallway out of earshot of the living area, so the home can be used as it was intended.
It's an entertainer's home. The whole concept of the open plan with the large kitchen, it's all about having people around and not being separated from them while you're in the kitchen space.
Let's talk about that kitchen, Lyle, because it is one of your features. You've got this massive big island. Well, I suppose you call it an island, or what would you call it?
No, it's actually a galley kitchen.
A galley kitchen. Okay. That's huge. Take a lot of keeping tidy, I guess, but...
Actually quite easy. I think because the bench isn't cluttered, there's so much cupboard space and drawer space and things in the kitchen, everything has a place, so the benches don't become cluttered. And with that single piece top, very easy to clean.
Is 4 bedrooms still the big demand?
Yes, definitely.
You're looking at an entertainer's home, which is more than likely going to be a retired farmer or a retired business person, and maybe all the kids are gone, but the client still wants 4 bedrooms?
The kids still come home. That's, I think, what we all face is the reality. Our children leave, they all come home, and then they've usually got more kids with them. So, yeah, 4 bedrooms is still a big one.
And they're all double bedrooms too?
Yep.
Could you tell us, Lyle, what the overall area is?
225 square metres.
225 square metres. As I was lucky enough to be speaking with Lyle, an experienced builder, I thought it fitting to ask about the changes that he has seen over his 30 years in the trade.
Yeah, the changes have been huge over the years, Peter. The products that are available now are far superior on what we used to use. Companies have had to keep pace with what people wanted, but also with the warranties that we've got nowadays. We've all heard about leaky homes and things like that. Well, what's really going on now, companies are becoming more aware and more liable for what they're putting on homes. So the products have changed immensely and improved hugely.
The client is certainly more demanding.
They certainly are.
Today.
But I think for the money they're investing, I think they have a right to do that.
The roof, because you have an internal gutter, I suppose, or an internal valley, shall we say?
Nope.
No internal valley?
No.
Okay, what about the V with it?
Basically, they all drop off. The whole back of the home slopes one direction, and that's all into gutters. This area here all falls into another gutter above that centre panel, which is a sloping roof which goes the other direction. So no, there's no internal gutters. So there's none of those problems that you can get with internal gutters.
That was originally why they moved away from the V shapes in the first place, because you had this internal valley that if it ever became a problem.
Well, they tended to fill up with leaves, or the gutter eventually rusted out, and then you had leaking problems in the home. But with a little bit of thought and going into the design, you can alleviate all that problem.
Let's run through some of the materials again, Lyle. The outside is linear board and...
Titan board.
Titan board.
From James Hardy's.
Okay, that's the finished product, is it?
No, it still has to be painted, but it's a very stable product. Right. A lot of the problems that we used to have with the traditional weatherboards, you couldn't paint them dark colours, they moved and cracked. The linear board alleviates all that problem. So yeah, they are there forever.
With this property, the design aspect is very much focused on low maintenance. A definite example of this is the easy maintenance of the grounds. Lifestyles are changing, and so too are our homes. The show home is a great tool to utilise when designing or building your own home, even if it is just for ideas. This particular property is a credit to functionality, aesthetics and the use of space. Thank you to Lyle and his team for sharing this property with us and for giving us a builder's perspective of the way things are with our Taranaki properties today. "30 years ago, a group of enthusiasts had an idea to create the pioneer village on the outskirts of Stratford. It was to look like an early Taranaki pioneer village. I went along and spoke to Helen O'Neill about this truly remarkable slice of our history.
We've come inside the original homestead, which is a 1910s villa. The original building that was on the site here when it was purchased 30 years ago by the Taranaki Pioneer Village Society, and from that it's been developed.
So the village has actually grown around this villa.
It has,
Was
most
this the only
definitely.
building on the property, Helen?
And a few sheds, Peter.
Right, yeah, okay. And now, just before we move on to the concept of the village and so forth, is there any stories with the house? What was the original family that owned this home?
Oh yes, in most of the buildings around the village, the visitors are really pleased to be able to read stories about the buildings. There's a lot of authentic buildings here.
This original homestead was built in 1920 for Mr. B. Harkness. It cost a total of £531. All the buildings are fully furnished with items from their era, and this one is complete with hair rollers and hair grips. So this was the original thing. So 30 years ago, a group of people got together and said, hey, it's a great idea. And it's just grown from there.
That's exactly what's happened.
Was it modelled on Shantytown or anything like that?
No,
or no?
no. The property originally was 5 acres,
Right.
and so there's been the railways being built around the property as
Right.
well, and the roads have been added. We have our main street just out here, and that's how it's worked.
Helen, this is the original school from Pembroke Road. It hasn't changed since it was probably built. It's as authentic as it can get. Is that right?
It is true, Peter, and we got heritage funding to have it recreated a few years ago. That was one of the Pioneer Village projects, and it has had some work done to it on the outside and some boards replaced, but this is called a dog box because what happens is you've got these rods here and the big screws and bolts and nuts and all that sort of thing, and the whole thing can be dismantled and taken off to another area.
How long was it in use at Pembroke Road? Any idea?
No, I don't know. 1915 was a year that we have recorded in our history of buildings.
It was in use at that stage?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Let me out, it wasn't me. I'm really, really sorry.
Are you really in there?
I didn't
my
really
goodness. Rather scary,
I
is
promise I won't do it again.
No, that's probably how it was.
This is amazing. They've even got their own portable loos in here. This is something quite modern.
A bed there.
I'll be careful not to touch the top. But this obviously was the toilet for the prisoner. So,
Rather primitive.
They could probably last in there for a good month, I guess, before they needed to change it. But anyway, it's probably served its purpose, Helen. It would have kept all those rogues off the street.
Yes, it's pretty rustic in there, Peter. You wouldn't want to stay too long.
There's not too much heating or ventilation, Helen. But all jokes aside, this is a fabulous building. This building is the building is built of heart matai, I understand. But there is some history to it.
Yes, well, the police decided to build a jail in Kaponga in 1914. It was built in 1915, so yeah, it's getting on, that's for sure. But buildings were made to last then.
They were indeed. What we have to imagine is that we have 2 cells here. There could be something like 15 or 20 people in each of these cells on a Saturday night.
I suppose so.
All the Malones and the McGregors and all those Kaponga names that we all know now, all respectable families. I mean, that's how it was, wasn't it? The Saturday night and the hotels and all the partying, the shenanigans, the hard work, and then the hard play. So, if these walls could talk. Helen, this is the hospital recreation. Just tell us a wee bit about where this building came from and who was behind it.
Yeah, well, very dedicated committee of ladies who wanted people to be able to see what it was like in hospital in Stratford, and so they've collected up an enormous amount of equipment that you'll be able to see.
These were nurses themselves, weren't
Yes, they are.
they? Okay.
Yes.
Now the building, what's the story with the building?
Came from Levin, and then it suited exactly. It was actually an old ball stall, and so with the little rooms, they were able to turn them into wards, and part of the storage area, or it shows lots of equipment, is just adjacent as well. That is the original recreation room, so there's definitely part of the hospital here.
So it was a borstal for bad boys, basically, wasn't it?
The building.
Yeah.
It works well.
It does have some history then, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Now these buildings were very clinical, run like a regiment, Helen. Frightening experience for kids.
Most definitely, and only visited on Sundays. That means that the child could be here for weeks on end and in a totally strange environment and only have a visitor, or maybe the mother, would come on a Sunday afternoon. But then that would have been a big deal for her as well, of course.
Right.
You know, leaving the rest of the family behind, getting things organised, and then making the trip into town to visit the sick child. So, a terrible experience.
Some of the scary things, Helen, is in the equipment here. Some of this equipment is hammers and chisels and saws. And
Yes, that's what would have happened too. And before the throwaway society too, where everything was washed and sterilised, and that's just how it was.
amazing. Well, it's a credit to those people that have put the time in to recreate it.
Here's the doctor's surgery, and in here, yes, smells like the dental clinic, and there's our doctor.
Helen, this has been recreated to celebrate perhaps or remember the family of doctors, the Gordon family, who still actually are in the town, but they were husband and wife, Doctors Bill and Doris, and this has been recreated with a lot of their stuff, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it has. A lot of their equipment is here, and people will tell us that went into the doctor's surgery, saw the doctor and smelt the dental clinic, and it brings back a lot of memories for people.
Absolutely. Dr. Doris wrote a lot of books, as you can see up there on the mantelpiece, Baby Doctor and Doctor Down Under, and they were huge sellers in their day.
Most definitely.
Famous, really famous people. People can see a lovely big photo of Mr. Newton King in the district council offices. There's a fabulous photo of him being driven out by his chauffeur out to the Kahuratai sale.
An important man in the Stratford.
Absolutely, and he's in an open convertible, looked like a convertible Model T if there was such a thing, so that's fabulous. Helen, this is amazing, this thing. We've only just skimmed the top of it. You say there's 40-odd buildings.
That's correct.
And what, we've seen half a dozen, I guess?
Yeah.
And every one has got a story to itself, isn't it?
Yes, it has. No, from the Egmont Settler, the early printing days in Stratford, the library, how it was before we had computers with all the books, and
amazing.
Just Brooks Road Cottage with its thatched roof. Lots and lots of history for people to come in and discover.
We've just given them a taste. It's up to them now to call in and take advantage and have a look at this, because it is something very special. And what a wonderful tribute to those pioneers. And we'll have to say what a tremendous achievement these group of volunteers have actually done here. What an asset they have built up for the community.
Yes.
Stratford Pioneer Village is a stunning collection of history. It is a true glimpse of Taranaki Properties as they once were.